Good afternoon, Keepers of the Cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and we are here with another Savage Saturday. This is episode 13, and I'm happy that I've gotten this far with it. And we're reviewing a great 5-part story today, and it's by 3 creators I just love, 2 of which unfortunately are no longer with us, one who just recently passed this last week. So it's a story by Roy Thomas. It is art in the Marvel feature sections of this crossover by Frank Thorne, who also did the colors, the editing, the lettering, and just did it all. And John Buscema and the Conan and Barbarian issues that it crosses over into. And these are 2 iconic art and creators with John Buscema and Frank Thorne that are no longer with us, but always have a lasting influence on sword and sorcery fiction and just comic books in general and just the world of fantasy, especially sword and sorcery. And just phenomenal talents that generations have grew up on, that generations more will continue to enjoy. And then, of course, we have the esteemed Roy Thomas. In my mind, and in my opinion, one of the all-time best writers and adapters of the written form and novels to comics. Roy Thomas is amazing in my opinion. He knows how to write characters. He knows how to make them feel real, like they could exist. He gives them their ups. He gives them their downs. He gives them their flaws and their strengths, and their interactions feel genuine. And Roy Thomas's writing has always been a thing of magic to me. It fueled my childhood. It made me fall in love with Conan in comic form, and the rest has been history. We're going to get into reviewing this. And of course, we are going to open the first one here, and we're going to tell you what the story is, and then I got notes on the back of everything, so I don't have as many pauses. I want to try to make these as quick and accessible to you guys as possible. You know, I don't want to keep you guys hanging. All right, so this first chapter is called Beware the Sacred Sons of Set. So what we have here for a main theme is we have this set of books called the Ironbound Books of Skelos. And one of these volumes of the books is missing a page. Someone has stolen a page out of it. This page, it resides in a temple, and it's the House of Relics, and that temple is in Argos. There are 2 factions that want this lost page. One is a sorcerer that works for the god Set. The other one, Caranthes, is a sorcerer that works for Ibis, the bird god. All right, and his origins are from Stygia. Both gods are from Stygia, and they're opposites. One's life, one's death. They're both warring for this book, and as is usual, when gods want something, it is the lesser mortals, which are the pawns on the chessboard of the world, right? So the manipulations are in place. Sonia is on her way to Ventia, but she gets waylaid by Caranthes, who approaches her and wants to send her on a quest. And right now she's on the Road of Kings. She has to go to Argos along that road to get to Ventia. And it's when she's passing Argos that Caranthes meets her, and announces himself. He's very straightforward. He's a sorcerer in the employ of Ibis, the invincible godbird of Stygia, and him and his sect, they oppose the serpent god. Serpent and the bird, always opposing forces. Sonia is loath to go on the quest at first because she's on business going elsewhere. But he proffers up a jewel. Sonya, in this part of her career, is a mercenary, so he knows how to appeal to her, and he knows how to hold sway on her. She wants the jewel. She agrees to be waylaid to go into Argos and try to retrieve this page for him. And things are set in motion. So Sonya accepts the quest and she's on her way. She knows what she has to get, and as in all things on an epic quest, there's trials and tribulations along the way, right? And I'll continue to put stuff over here for you guys to see the interior art and the designs. Because it's fantastic. Frank Thorne did a great job in this opening issue, and the action's dynamic. Red Sonja looks amazing, and just so much fun. So what you get in the beginning of the story, right, is there's Gator Men, which are part of the Nameless Sorcerer from Set. He has this power. He can change people into part animals, part man. You know, kind of like an Island of Dr. Moreau thing. That's the power of this ring he has, this gem. So we get dynamic action, we get nameless wizards, we get gods that are in play that we can't see because it's just about the mortals and being the chess pieces of the gods. We get beast, sword battles, and just epic quests. We got Sonya trudging through Barbarian age sewer to get to where she's going, to go unnoticed. We have her being stalked by a nameless wizard. We have her in heated battle, fighting for her life against these half beasts, half men. And then at the end, when she gets through all those trials and tribulations and she reaches the room. Sometimes words are so very difficult. When she reaches the room in the House of Relics, and this House of Relics, it has a bunch of things in it, and I'll tell you more when we get to the next section. But it's a place of worship for many different gods. And it plays in a little bit, although it's not a major part of the story, right? And she opens the door, she's finally to where the page is, and she wanders in there, and there's Conan and Bullet with the page that she needs. And it leaves you on a great cliffhanger. I'll put it here. And with her challenging Conan and saying only one of us is going to leave with this page and the other one's going to be dead. So they set up the cliffhanger and you move on to chapter 2. So chapter 2 is just another great issue. Alright, and I believe I showed you this one. If I didn't, there you go. Great Frank Thorne cover. So this one we start out with Conan and Bullet a few days back before they met Sonya at the end of Marvel Feature 6. And they just arrived on shore, Missantia, which is the capital of Argos. And they come ashore on their little schooner, and that's Conan and Bullet and a few of the Black Corsairs, which sail with them. And this is during the parting time of Conan's career. And of course, with the Queen of the Black Coast herself, Baylit. Alright, so they've left the Tigris, which is their ship. And from their pirating, they have wares to sell, stolen goods to sell. You know, honest work is what they call it, right? So they come across 2 guards, which Baylit knows. They pay them off. They already know to expect her here and there. And they're on the way to see a merchant named Publio. Alright? And when they get there, Conan already has issues with this dude because this dude screwed him over when Conan was a much younger lad. And Conan would like nothing more than to run him through and call it a day and be done, right? And he can't because there's a means to an end. He's the merchant that they're meeting to sell their goods to. So he doesn't let things get in the way of money. And he's also a little compliant with Baylit. It's the love of his life, and he's agreed to let her command him on the ship. Even though Conan's always going to be Conan, he'll only be cowed and held so far by anybody. So when they get to him, they make their deal. Conan bursts in. It's a great scene. Knocks him on his butt. But they come to terms. But before they part, Publio quests both of them with fetching the Page of Skelos. Now, Conan and Billet, much like Red Sonja, they have no idea who the major players are setting them out for these pages, for this page, right? They just know at this time in both their careers, in all their careers, they're mercenaries. They're pirates. All right, they hire themselves out, and right now their day-to-day life is about acquiring wealth, being able to feed themselves, have a place to sleep, and just live in a day-to-day. All right, and have enough money left at the end of the night for some cups and drinking if they need it. So the quest has started in both of them, and Publio explains about the ironbound books of Skelos and how that's in the House of Relics in Argos. So we're getting a theme. All our heroes are being sent to the same place to retrieve the same page. So they set out. They've had a few battles already because everything wasn't a clean get to Publio. They got attacked and they had to fend off some people just to show their battle acuity and how good they are at it. And so they set off on the quest. They get to the house, they're inside, and there's another wizard in there. They're looking at all the different gods that are set up in this temple, and the gods seem to come to life from the statues. And there's a battle that ensues that I won't ruin for you. It was really good. But suffice it to say, it's a 5-parter. You know they're going to get to the room. It was already established in the previous comic. So they conquer what they need to conquer. They're in the room. And the last page of this ends with the last page of Marvel Feature 6, with all our heroes coming together with the same goal, but opposing sides. All right, and one set of them is going to leave. It's either going to be Conan and Billet leave with the page, or Red Sonja and leaves with the page herself. So there we go. We're on the chapter. We're on the third chapter. So third chapter. All right, and you got the main feature of this one at the beginning of it is a fantastic fight with Red Sonja and Billet. Both of them. Red Sonja is more of a warrior and she's about her business. Billet is the queen of the Black Coast, but one of her weaknesses is jealousy. She cannot control her jealousy, and she sees Sonja as a rival to Conan's affections, and so she's already not having anything to do with her. So in true fashion, everyone here has a red-blooded temper, and instead of talking things out, they fight. So Red Sonja and Billet get into a fight. Conan does not intercede. He knows better than to get in the way of either woman when they've set their mind to something, and he wouldn't disrespect them that way. So they're fighting. The fight's going back and forth. You're seeing a great battle, and Red Sonja cuts the candle. The room goes black. She steals the page and she's gone. So what you have now is Conan and Billet left with nothing. They have to follow Sonja. They have to try to catch up to her, and the quest is moving along. You have the two people that are kind of controlling the quest, unbeknownst to these three characters, in the background, still doing their sorcerous machinations to try to make things come out their way. Sonja flees Argos and Messantia, and she's on her way through Argos. Conan doesn't know where she's going. Him and Billet split up. She's going with the Corsairs back to the ship and meeting them more central to the city. Conan ends up getting caught up with some people he knew from his past. One of them is free, the other one's captured, and he's got to free that person. And there's still some sorcerous machinations behind it. He's able to free his friend, which was fortunate because it gives him information about where Red Sonja is headed and who she might be working with and the side she's on. Conan hasn't really thought about sides. Conan doesn't want to overthink it. He's a smart dude, but at the end of the day, he thinks overthinking something's going to get him in more trouble than it's worth. So he sets off after saving this guy, and he has another battle with another man turned to beast, and it's a great little fight. Absolutely fantastic. And Conan and Billet begin their quest towards chasing Red Sonja. And that's where this issue leaves off. So then we get to issue 7. And again, back to Marvel Feature. All right, and one of the great things about the issue back here, which I'll get back to later, I'll tell you after, I don't want to subtract myself. So Sonja in this issue, she arrives at the temple, the nest of the sacred Ibis, right? And she meets with Cranthes again. She's about to turn the page over to him when Conan arrives. Conan and Billet were hot on her trail, although Cranthes was setting obstacles in their places, like rock slides and other stuff. And I'm not going to go into much detail. And there's a power in this whole story, which is revealed later, which I'm not going to reveal in this review because it's fun to find out for yourself. But Conan drops down as Sonja gives the page to Cranthes, and he demands the page. Sonja's not going to give it up. Cranthes has already tasked her to defend him while he invokes his incantations he needs to do. But he doesn't need to do that. Sonja's already in a red rage now because her quest is being questioned by someone else. And another warrior that she's fought with before. Now they're on opposing sides, and they have a fantastic battle which lasts pages and pages, back and forth, showing the strengths and weaknesses of each warrior. Whether it's a bit of compassion here, bit of ruthlessness there, or just the greed for each one of them wanting it for their own ends. And the battle is back and forth, and it switches sides a few times until something happens where something's disturbed and a giant serpent is awoken. At which point, both warriors have to forget their differences at the moment and join together to fight this giant serpent. And at the end of this book, they, of course, part 5, so they dispatch the serpent. No spoilers there if there's another chapter. But the nameless sorcerer comes down and steals the page of Skelos, and off he goes. Cranthes turns to both of them and knows that they're together now, and just quests them, let them know the importance of it, that things are going to be bad if this set, God's set, gets this. And off they go. Which brings us to our final issue of this 5-parter, and that is issue 68. And one of my favorite issues because it has all my favorite Robert E. Howard characters in it, with the exception of Solomon Kane and Black Agnes. All right, but you do have Kull, Conan, Red Sonja, and Billet. All right, so fantastic issue. So in this issue, you of course get the stunning conclusion. And Conan and Red Sonja set out from the Temple of Ibis to chase down this new winged nameless wizard who's transformed himself. It's his power. And he's flying through the air. They're chasing on horses, and Billet comes up beside them, and it's the 3 of them on a ride to get him. But along that ride, they come up to the city of Volusia, which wasn't in this desert area before, right? And it's a city at a time. Volusia isn't from this time. It sank with Atlantis. So things are already strange, and this is where they meet Kull. Kull and Conan are both being manipulated by forces beyond their control, and instead of coming together like they should, they have a battle. A king and a barbarian against a barbarian who will be king. So it's a classic setup. It's a great setup. Kull's presence makes sense there, as does his spear slayer Brule, who is one of the most underrated characters in comics, in my opinion. I love Brule the Spear Slayer. Just a absolutely incredible character, and he's great in the Kull stories. But anyway, so Conan battles Kull until they both realize that they are being pitted against each other at the benefit of someone else. Both warriors already had a respect for each other. So it doesn't take them long to team up. Now, before Conan and Red Sonja had left the temple, they were given something that would help them on their journey. They would know the right time to use it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but this thing is given to Kull. Kull uses it, and it reveals some things which help them move on. The Nameless Wizard is the final conflict between Conan and Red Sonja and him. And it's a great conclusion. And another power player is shown to be the manipulator pulling the strings. And I don't want to reveal who that is, but I do want to suffice it to say that the conclusion is great. It's an excellent conclusion to a 5-story arc, and an arc that showed our heroes' weaknesses, showed their strengths, and like I said, the two opposing forces used the mercenary nature of Conan and Red Sonja against them, and that's often in these battles in these books, right? But let's kind of get to the grading now. So the story I'm going to give an A+, right? You have your heroic journey, you have your heroes oppose moments, you have your heroes join moments, you have your strengths and weaknesses that are showed with all the characters, right? We have raging tempers, we have greed, we have a sense of duty, a sense of honor, we have jealousy, and then we also have selflessness. None of these characters are perfect, and it's why you can identify with them so much. And in this journey, they have to overcome their weaknesses as well as embrace their strengths to not only not kill each other, but to succeed. All right, there's something bigger at play, right? So the cover art, I give an A+ all around. These are two people, creators, whose art I've loved my whole life, with Frank Thorne and John Buscema. And some of the covers weren't done by John Buscema and Conan. They're still fantastic covers, and which is going to bring me to the interior art, which again I give an A+. And I've been having a lot of fun, and one of the reasons I started doing Savage Saturday 13 is I was going to start revisiting these comics which I hadn't had a chance to read in a very long time. And it's great to be able to talk about them and revisit some of these and just experience the stories again and refresh yourself. Because sometimes you remember things and they're not exact, right? Like this is a 5-issue arc. I didn't remember it being 5 issues. Now I remembered the story, but it only seemed like a few issues to me. But that's the flow and ebb of Roy Thomas's writing, right? It's so fluid, it's so good, and it takes you on such an easy journey that it feels shorter than what it is. And so that's going to bring us to our conclusion, which I also give an A+. So this 5-story arc is going to get an A+ across the board from me. Again, you have great creators like Roy Thomas, John Buscema, Frank Thorne, and it's a trio of talent you can't beat, especially combined. They weave a great story. They're true to the characters. The characters look fantastic. And this is the kind of fantasy I like. Now, we had this discussion on Varangian Vigilante's channel. There's high fantasy and low fantasy. I am a low fantasy guy where I like the story about the individuals more than I like the story about a group on a quest. All right, which is what, let's say, a Lord of the Rings is a high fantasy, right? And they're all on a quest to save something epic. These guys are on a quest for their own personal welfare, and along the way, they help others that they can because they also are, at their core, decent people. Now, their motivations are motivated by their needs in their daily life, and I identify more with those kind of characters. It's why we go to a job. It's why we do this. It's why we do that. We need to put food on the table. We need to provide for a family. We need to pay bills. Their needs are much the same, right? Except in their time, right? They need food in their bellies. They need entertainment just like we do. They need to have something for the next day. And low fantasy speaks to me. Individual character journeys speak to me. And these three characters together, which are some of my favorite characters ever created, was just a win-win for me. So again, A+ all around. Really enjoyed this. by these three creators. And that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you enjoyed the pages and the art I put over here. And until next time, guys, keep it casual.